Hello, pup parents, and welcome to today's episode of the Perfect Pup Podcast. My name is Devin. I am very excited for a couple reasons. Number one, we have Holly Ovington back on with us. We love having Holly on here. So thank you so much for coming back on.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
And the second reason I'm excited, we've got a fun topic. It's one that I think is a little bit, confusing potentially, especially for newer pup parents. They hear this thing about a clicker and they're like, what in the world does that mean? So we're just kind of going to talk about clickers, what the advantages are, some potential disadvantages, and then alternatives as well. So before that, let's give a quick intro to Holly. Most of you have met her via the podcast, but we'll just give you a little intro on her for new listeners. So Holly's been passionate about dogs since a very, very young age. She's been learning to train and show her own dogs. She is certified with the Pryor Academy, a fear-free certified trainer and instructor for the Dog Biz Dog Walking Academy, and Walks and Wags First Aid certified. And then, of course, she runs her own training company called Paws Training in the Vancouver area. And currently, she is working on a separation anxiety certification to help those pups with that challenge of separation anxiety. So again, thank you, Holly, for coming on, and I'm excited for you to be working towards that separation anxiety certification.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's dive into it. So very first, for those on video, a clicker, right? This is one of our Pupford clickers. It's just a little kind of teardrop shaped object, and it's got a little button here, and this is the noise that it makes. So it's kind of this distinct noise that is kind of clearly distinguishable for our dogs. So that's kind of what a clicker is, right? But then, Holly, what is the purpose of a clicker? Why would someone use a clicker when training their dog?
Yeah, so a clicker is a tool within positive reinforcement training that essentially bridges the gap between when your dog does the behavior we like and by the time you give them the piece of food. The reason for this is that we want to pair the food with the behavior we want our dogs to do. So say we want our dogs to sit. As soon as their bum touches the ground, we would love to insert a treat right into their mouth at that moment. But it's not really possible to do that. So what the clicker does is you make this distinct sound and you click as your dog's bum touches the ground. And then you can reach for a treat and deliver it. So your dog starts to pair that click sound with, ooh, I did the right thing. Almost like a camera shot in their mind. They hear that click and they go, ooh, what was I doing at that exact moment that earned me the reward?
That's very interesting. So do you typically work with a clicker, and do you typically recommend pup parents use a clicker?
Now, I love clickers. But I don't always recommend it for clients because training your dog is already overwhelming. And sometimes for pup parents, having their treat bag and their leash and their dog, and now they've got a poop bag in their hand and they have to fumble around with this clicker. It ends up just being too overwhelming for them. So some clients say, oh, I have a clicker. Should we use that? And I'll say, yeah, absolutely. But I put no pressure on them to use it. I just want them to be comfortable with using positive reinforcement training. And I don't want to give them any reason to run away from it because it's too, quote unquote, hard.
I like that. So if someone's not going to use a clicker, what would be an alternative? Because the point you were making is it helps us kind of bridge that gap between my dog did something correct, they're getting a reward. You have that clicker noise to help them understand, yes, this is what you did correctly. So what can be an alternative to a clicker?
Yeah, so what I use in my puppy classes and with clients who don't choose to use a clicker is we'll use a marker word. So I actually use the word yes to tell the dog they did the right thing. We always have our mouths on us, so it's easy to speak. It's something that kind of comes a little bit more naturally to people. So we're still using something to mark, but opposed to using the clicker marking sound, we'll use a clicker marker word. So I usually choose the word yes because it's clear and concise. So what that would look like is your pup sits. As soon as their bum touches the ground, you say yes, and then you reach and deliver the treat.
Okay. So I think a lot of people might be thinking, okay, I've been using just a marker word, and they might be interested in starting to work on using a clicker. kind of basic first steps, like how do you help your dog understand what the point of the clicker is? Is there anything that you need to do to just like kind of make their brain make that connection?
So you can start by doing some easy sessions with taking a behavior that your dog knows really well, such as sit, or you can simply just be in a calm environment where, in your house or your dog is just being nice and relaxed, and you can practice just making a click sound, delivering a treat, making a click sound, delivering a treat, or just saying yes and delivering a treat, yes and delivering a treat. But before clients do that, especially with a clicker, because timing is so important with clicker training, because as I mentioned, our dogs take a snapshot in their brain, right? So if you've clicked too early and they're not sitting yet, or you've clicked too late and they're already standing up again, they might get a little bit confused about what it is that they were doing. So I usually actually recommend that clients practice using the clicker by themselves without their dog. So you can just stand in a room. A lot of clients giggle when I tell them to do this, but it's helpful. Stand in a room by yourself with your treat pouch and your clicker and just practice click, reach for a treat and toss it on the ground. Click, reach for a treat and toss it on the ground. And then you can let your dog in after to just enjoy a bunch of treats off of the ground.
Nice. I really like that idea. And, I think with all things, especially in dog training, as pup parents, we have to remember there is a little bit of a learning curve. So yeah, in the beginning, as you're doing it, if it feels awkward, like you kind of just have to keep practicing. And I think you can relate to this. It just becomes second nature, right? Where you see the correct behavior happen, you'll know to click, you'll know to give the treat. So one kind of question that I just thought of, I didn't prompt you on this, so sorry to throw you on the spot. I even myself, I'm like, okay, if I'm training like a chained behavior or whatever you want to call it, right? Where it's like, I want my dog to come to me and lay down and look at me. At what point do I click when I'm asking for like multiple things? And am I clicking each behavior and then I'm treating each behavior, or clicking 3 times and treating once? How do you approach that with chained behavior?
Good question. So first of all, we obviously want to teach all those behaviors separately. So you mentioned having your dog come to you. So teach them that separately and click and treat when they come to you. The down, teach that separately, click and treat when they lay down. And then looking at you, teaching that separately, clicking and treating when they do that. And then what you can start doing is you can pair the coming to you and then laying down and clicking afterwards. And then after you can add the come to you, lays down, looks at you, then they get the click and reward. I would do each step for a while until your dog is quite comfortable with it before you add another step. But that's a really interesting question that we actually did a lot of in the Karen Pryor course is behavior chains. And that's our last assessment, is doing a 10-part behavior chain with our dog, which was crazy. So I had that question too. So that's a really good question. And you want to click at the end of the behavior chain and deliver one treat.
That makes sense. And I think that's good to remember too. And I'll just kind of re-break that down for people. If you're going to work on chain behaviors, work on each one individually. And then if you are going to combine them, instead of going from, all right, instead of 1, I'm going to ask for 4 behaviors, it's ask for 2 first, and then 3, and then 4. Again, kind of like building up that building blocks with our dog, instead of just saying, all right, I want you to come from 100 feet away with distractions. It's, I want you to come from 2 feet away in the house, setting our dogs up for success. So that makes a lot of sense. I've learned a lot. I think, hopefully pup parents here are interested at least, or want to kind of explore clickers a little more. You can find clickers all kinds of places. We sell them here at Pupford. Most of them are very, very similar. So, find a clicker, find one that works for you. A lot of them have, the little wrist thing here. You can put it on your wrist. You can clip it onto a treat bag or a poop bag holder, whatever it might be. So thank you again, Holly, for coming on. I really appreciate your expertise and helping, pup parents understand the importance of a clicker.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I hope that this helps.
I believe it will. And for all of you who are watching / listening, as always, we will include information in the show notes where you can connect with Holly, follow her on Instagram, check out her website, all that good stuff. And of course, I really, truly, genuinely mean this. If you have feedback, you have ideas, you have, topics you want covered, email us, hello@pupford.com, or, send us a DM on Instagram, Facebook, wherever it might be. Leave us a review, all that good stuff. But other than that, we will catch everybody on the next episode.